Ahmedabad turned 611 years old yesterday. Every time I hear the story about a hare chasing a dog by Ahmed Shah to drop the pin on the map to establish the city, I just scratch my head. I mean, Ahmed Shah was an able ruler. He must have weighed in critical factors such as soil quality, wildlife, availability of water, and whatnot before laying down the foundation for Ahmedabad, rather than just relying upon a fat rabbit chasing a skinny dog on a shiny day. Inscribed in UNESCO's World Heritage City list of 2017, Ahmedabad has seen sea change during last 6 centuries. Shakespeare once said, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet," but little he knew about us Ahmedabadis. Ahmedabad became Ahmedabad and later on Karnavati. For me personally, name should resonate with the people of the city. The people who are popularly known as Ahmedabadis across the globe have become a brand in itself. And it wouldn't be wise to lose all the brand capital built over the period of time. Personally, I have few sweet memories built around Karnavati too. I don't recall the exact year, but during one of those Navratris, I had managed few Garba passes of Ahmedabad's famous Karnavati club. At that time, I didn't knew, but celebrity guest for that night was Shilpa Shetty. And oh boy, we had fun. From that night onwards, I fell in love, not with Shilpa Shetty, but with Karnavati club. And it became my go-to place with friends during Navratri. During year 2015-16, I was placed with Shell Hazira, and one of the memories associated with my stint with Hazira was running towards Surat railway station, running on platform number one of that station, like Shah Rukh Khan trying to catch that departing train. That departing train, Karnavati Express, going towards Ahmedabad, towards my city. So Karnavati Express and Karnavati Club has a nice place in my heart. So if you call my city Karnavati, I would be okay with it. Thrust deep into the arm of Western India, close to the Bay of Cambay, yet not that close enough to protect us Ahmedabadis from scorching heat and severe desert wind, is the city of Ahmedabad. With no natural beauty to boast for, save for Sabarmati, which nowadays carries Narmada water into it, Ahmedabad has a reputation of being a hardy city. Hardy, I said, not Hardik. Well, Hardiks too have made their name in Ahmedabad. While one shook Gujarat's politics from GMDC ground few years back, the other one is looking to shake off injuries to lead Ahmedabad's IPL franchisee. Coming back to Ahmedabad being a hardy city, Ahmedabad has gone through severe tragedies, but this city, I say, has always came back stronger than before. To understand this, you need to understand the history of Ahmedabad. So let's dig deep into it. Old Ahmedabad prospered due to the foresightedness of Ahmad Shah, who had invited traders, merchants, weavers, craftsmen to settle there. Ahmedabadi people's industriousness and thrift turned that inland city into a pulsing center of trade. Cotton, silk, silver, velvet, gold brocade, chemicals, indigo, you name it, everything flowed from Ahmedabad through the port of Cambay to Middle East, Africa, Europe, Southeast Asia, and throughout the world. All the West imports would be stocked into the warehouses located on the outskirts of Ahmedabad and would move on to the backs of donkeys and camels to the bazaars of Delhi, Malwa, Agra, and Rajasthan. Over the centuries, Ahmedabad changed hands. The Mughals came in the 16th century. Southwestern province of Ahmedabad was so dear to Akbar that on hearing the plot of toppling his appointed governor, he rode out immediately, all the way from Agra to the city's north gate, to ward off the treacherous forces into submission. With time, Mughals became weak and made the ways for the Marathas. During the Maratha regime, Ahmedabad was for all intents and purposes divided into two halves, one into the hands of Peshwas of Pune and the other into the hands of Gaikwads of Vadodara. We Indians know how coalition government works, don't we? Constant struggle between the Peshwas and Gaikwads, and the retrograde and oppressive policies defined that period. East India Company took charge of Ahmedabad in 1817. Englishmen knew the strategic importance of Ahmedabad, bringing in military cantonment, municipality administration, railway link between Ahmedabad and Mumbai, among the other things. Even ravages perpetrated by the British elsewhere, such as flourishing manufacturing town of Murshidabad and Dhaka, they could not dent the jubilance of Ahmedabad. So, what made Ahmedabad so hardy and resilient? The city has evolved through all the turbulent times and came out stronger each time. Stubbornness, or as they say nowadays, majukega nahi kind of attitude of Ahmedabadis, should be attributed to what sort of factors? Those who have studied Ahmedabad's evolution cites two main factors. First, they say influence of Jainism, and second is commercial mindset of Ahmedabadis. Jains are known to be among the world's most rigorously ascetic faith, assiduously following the tenets of non-violence and public duty. In the early 1900s, they comprised around 10% of the population of Ahmedabad. Jains were the leading traders of the city during that time. Being fervent vegetarians, they refused to deal in firearms, alcohol, and meat products. And due to their immense wealth, they exercise strong influence over city's social life. Their ethics become shared ethics of the city. Other source of Ahmedabad's survival was vitamin M, a local verbatim for money. Muni Jivanji, head of historical research section of Gujarat Sahitya Parishad, once said, "The main aim of the people here is to figure out ways to make the most amount of money. This is not the view likely to be much contested, least of all by the Gujaratis and especially by the Ahmedabadis themselves." These two factors gave Ahmedabad a character both solid and limited, both solid and strong and ingrown, both alive and isolated, by which it had been able to household through the centuries a remarkable energy. By the mid 19th century, competition from the Chinese and other Indian traders forced Ahmedabadi traders to identify business avenues other than money lending and trading commodities. With no port in near proximity, a hostile dry weather, Ahmedabad was not an ideal place to manufacture cotton textiles. But Ahmedabadis being Ahmedabadis, they built so many power looms and textile mills that at one point of time, world started calling Ahmedabad Manchester of India. By the mid 1960s, Ahmedabad had around 133,000 textile workers. In other words, every third male Ahmedabadi was working in the mill. Although Ahmedabad was still a one industry town, it was beginning to diversify. Textiles required chemicals, and chemicals were also essential to manufacture pharmaceuticals. Ahmedabad's textile magnates began to enter into licensing agreements with companies like GG of Switzerland and American Cyanamide. Ahmedabad was betting that India's future would be westernized, at least in some form, and it put its chip on the line to secure a prominent place in that future. Founded by visionary Vikram Sarabhai, institutes like ISRO, PRL, IIM, ATIRA, and AMA corroborated that fact. Many would say that money minded Ahmedabad does not contribute much to social, economical, or political reforms. Their belief, to say politely, is misguided. Here are the facts. When Gandhiji moved to Ahmedabad, untouchability was still in practice. Gandhiji entered the struggle head on by inviting a untouchable family into his ashram, not as a servant, but on equal terms with the other residents, even at the risk of losing the ashram itself. During 1980, Gandhiji intervened in the strike and a lockout in the Ahmedabad mills that threatened labor and management with great losses. He declared his first public fast unto death to force both sides to compromise. Later, Gandhiji's fast unto death became a cornerstone of Swaraj Andolans. In 1930s, Gandhiji brought international attention to the city by launching his Salt March to the Sea, the most dramatic single campaign of the entire independence movement. From his ashram in Ahmedabad, Gandhiji made literature accessible to all by establishing institutions like Gujarat Vidyapit, Gujarat College, and he also founded publications such as Navjivan and Young India, all in Ahmedabad. Let's talk about economic reforms. India's nationalism, amalgamated with Gujarat's regionalism, gave birth to Ahmedabad's rationalism. The Ahmedabad textile industry virtually closed down in the 1980s. Employment in Ahmedabad's textile mills dropped from 155,000 in 1981 to 72,000 in 1987 to 35,000 in 1995. The once thriving municipal corporation verged on bankruptcy. In 1987, the city's civic, academic, and industrial leaders convened a seminar with the title Is Ahmedabad Dying? As Ahmedabad restructured its economy, however, a new kind of city emerged, one that could and did avail itself of the opportunities of global market. By the mid 90s, its economy had shifted to pharmaceuticals, chemicals, diamond polishing, denim, and financial services. In politics, Ahmedabad's role as pioneer was much clearer. The Nav Nirman movement in Ahmedabad during 1974 and 75 began as a movement to enlist Gujarat Chief Minister Chiman Patel in a popular struggle against high prices. University students and professionals led the movement, abetted by the masses of ordinary people, especially housewives, frustrated by the difficulty of balancing family budgets and asking perennial question, कितनी सहे महंगाई की मार अब की बार oops sorry. Later, Nav Nirman movement ignited protest against the Chimanbai, which turned violent, especially in Ahmedabad. An official total of 104 people, 120 unofficially were killed. Chimanbai was forced to resign and the state government fell. Through the intervention of nationalist leader Jayaprakash Narayan, the movement spread geographically to attack corruption in the eastern state of Bihar as well. Prime Minister Ms. Gandhi feared that the movement would next spread to Delhi, thus declared the emergency, the first and the only official abridgment of national democratic politics in independent India. The movement that began in Ahmedabad climaxed in Delhi. The Indian Constitution reserves a total of approximately 22% of places in colleges, government employment, and elected offices for members of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, that is, ex-untouchables and Adivasis. But what about people on the next level up, the other backward classes? The government of Gujarat had already addressed the issue of reservation. As early as 1981, it expanded reservation in its medical schools for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe students. By 1985-86, it declared its intention to expand them throughout its educational and administrative organizations. The backlash in 1981 forced Chief Minister Solanki to backtrack on the reservations. The backlash in 1985 forced his resignation from the office. But only after 275 people were killed, thousands injured, tens of thousands rendered homeless, property damage reaching 1.75 billion US dollars, and Ahmedabad living in chaos for 6 months. Most of the rioting and loss of life and property centered on Ahmedabad, the largest city in the state and the cockpit of state politics. Many believe that it was the watershed movement of Indian politics making parties to create their vote banks based on caste. The political division, coupled with the closure of most of the mills, increased the segregation of Ahmedabad's population on a communal basis. In 2002, Ahmedabad and Gujarat experienced one of the worst Hindu Muslim riots in India since the partition riots of 1947. Approximately 2,000 people were killed, about half in Ahmedabad. Some 140,000 were rendered homeless, about 100,000 of them in Ahmedabad. The riots further intensified residential segregation and also brought legislation such as Disturbed Area Act. The riots were a center stage of many media programs for a long time and have completely changed the political scenario of India. A city which used to invite the likes of La Corbusier, Louis Kahn, Charles Correa, and Bibi Doshi to create marvels of modern architectures like AMA, IIM, and Atira, etc., has now become home of the likes of Bimal Patel, who has designed prestigious Central Vista project. The deeper you dig, more stories and histories you will find about Ahmedabad. Any city, in many ways, is defined by its people, in the legends they create and the stories they choose not to forget. A city which was once behind the walls and 12 gates is way beyond all physical periphery and reside in Ahmedabadi people's hearts and minds. Wishing all Ahmedabadis across the globe a happy Foundation Day.